Hey guys, what's up? It's Charlie here, and today we're going to be looking at 10 CIA spy techniques you can use. The Central Intelligence Agency of the USA, aka the CIA, is one of the best spying agencies on Earth. They are super secretive and capable and have a $15 billion budget every year. So with all this money, they're bound to develop some secrets and spy techniques. Well, now you can use these CIA spy techniques in day-to-day life. But before you get spied on, why not subscribe and press the notification bell too? Coming in at number 10, we have shoelaces. So when you're a CIA spy, you need to communicate things to other spies. That's the whole point of being a spy after all. However, you need to do this in a very subtle way. You can't just walk up to someone and say, hey, here are the latest Russian secrets. Instead, you need to do it in a very covert and discreet way, sometimes not even opening your mouth. So, how are you supposed to communicate something secretively without opening your own mouth? Well, it's easy. Instead of your mouth, use your shoes. The CIA have developed various different meanings behind shoelace ties. You may think you only tie your shoelaces one way, but in the CIA there's many different ways to tie your shoelaces, meaning different things. Now, not every single message has been identified by the CIA. The reason why they don't have too many different shoelace types in their lexicon is because they don't want outsiders to know what they mean. Usually there's two words like yes and no. Usually the spies will agree in advance, saying if my shoe's tied this way it means one thing and if it's tied this way it means another. But there are three definite ways you can tell what a CIA agent is saying by their shoelaces. If it's cross-tied at the top and oddly tied down towards the bottom, it means I have information. If they're crossed in a kind of zigzag way, it means follow me. And if it's messy at the top and more uniform down the bottom, it means I've brought another person with me. These can be super useful for agents on spy missions. So if you see someone with these shoelaces, now you know what they mean. And you'll also know that they're a CIA spy, not just someone who can't tie their shoes properly. Next up, we have masks. So when you're in the CIA, you likely need many disguises. Most secret agents are in other countries and sometimes are in dangerous scenarios. And sometimes they'll need to meet with some very dangerous people. For example, if you're meeting with a dangerous informant in a cafe, you hardly want your friend coming in saying hi Charlie when your name's not really Charlie. That's why many CIA spies use disguises. I'm not talking about a fake nose and glasses, I mean real, very convincing disguises. Years ago, when George Bush Sr. was the President of the United States, the head of disguise at the CIA briefed him on disguises. She then ripped off her face, revealing she was wearing one of her disguises the entire time. She did this to demonstrate just how amazing and realistic the CIA's disguises and masks really are. The CIA have many very high-tech masks, which are better than most Hollywood prosthetics. It really makes you think people you walk past on a day-to-day basis may not even be in their own skin. They might simply be wearing a CIA mask and on a mission. Next up, we have rats. So the CIA use very intelligent people and highly spec'd out computers to do their tasks. So you're probably wondering, why would the CIA ever need rats to help them out in missions? Well, believe it or not, rats can actually be instrumental in many CIA missions. More specifically, rats who aren't alive. Let's say you need to give a fellow spy or informant some information. Perhaps it's data on a USB stick, or maybe it's simply a note written on a piece of paper. Well, seeing as most spies are under surveillance all the time, you can't simply hand it to them. So what many agents do is get a passed away rat. They get these from CIA laboratories. That dead rat is then cut open and something is placed inside it. This could either be a paper note, a USB stick, or something else. It would be placed in a concealment cavity, which is basically a small box. That rat is then sewn back up and then placed out on the street or in an alleyway. The CIA agent will then be able to pick up that rat and take it home. Then when he's in a secure location, he can cut it open and get the message you've given him. I have to say this is very genius, if not kind of gross. But sometimes for national security, you gotta do what you gotta do. Next up is emojis. So most people nowadays use emojis to communicate. It's literally the new language for most kids around the world. We have emojis with obvious meanings. For example, smiley faces means you're happy. But we also have other emojis meaning different things. For example, the 100 emoji means you're very authentic. And the eggplant emoji, well, we all know what that means. But you may be surprised to learn that the CIA are also sending each other poop emojis. And any other emojis for that matter, because the CIA use emojis to communicate. They use emojis pretty much as a secret code. This is because it's very discreet, and if most people saw it, they'd simply assume they were sending emojis to one another, except their emojis mean different things. But it's very complicated, as putting one emoji in front of another could change the entire meaning of the sentence. For example, a dancing woman could mean I'm alone, whereas a dancing woman with a waving hand in front of it could mean I'm in danger. This way no one else can ever guess what the CIA is talking about, and it makes the language fully encrypted and safe to use anywhere. Next up, we have covert cyanide weapons. When it comes to national security, you never know what you may have to do. You may have to send someone emojis, or you may have to take someone's life. That's right, the CIA does have a license to kill if necessary. But the CIA can't just walk up to an enemy and unload a round into his head. Unlike many Russian spies recently, the CIA does not like to get caught. That's why they've used many things called covert weapons. These are weapons disguised as regular objects, and instead of shooting a very obvious bullet, it simply shoots cyanide. Cyanide is a poison which is very hard to trace and takes people's lives instantly. Back in the 80s, the CIA developed a cigarette package with a cyanide gun inside it. One of the cigarettes in the pack doubled up as a blow dart for cyanide. It was kind of like that one poisonous cigarette in Jesse's cigarette pack in Breaking Bad. Except this cigarette had cyanide in it instead of ricin. The CIA used this a lot as it was very covert back when more people smoked. But seeing as less people smoke nowadays, perhaps they don't use this so much. Another thing the CIA has used is a cyanide weapon made out of a newspaper. You've likely seen people walking in the street with a rolled up newspaper. Well, that's the perfect place to hide a cyanide weapon. That's exactly what the CIA did when they took out a Soviet spy named Nikolai. They did this back in the Cold War in the 90s, but many say today they still use the same methods. I think I might actually notice someone with a rolled up newspaper, but I guess if these CIA agents are operating in Pamplona, they'll blend right in. Next up, we have cigar. During the Cold War, the USA was terrified of the Soviets influencing the rest of the world and then ganging up and destroying the USA. One of the things they were most terrified about was Cuba. Fidel Castro, the leader of Cuba at the time, was cozying up to the USSR. They'd even apparently stationed various nukes in Cuba very near to US soil. So the CIA concluded they had to take out Fidel Castro and disrupt Cuba. They tried to do this using many different ways. But if you know anything about Fidel Castro, you'll know he loved Cuban cigars. That's why the CIA developed a special cigar to try and take him out. They laced one of his cigars with a lot of explosives. They said, and this is in their words, it would blow his head off. However, for unknown reasons, a senior CIA commissioner decided to scrap this plan at the last minute. But make no mistake, the CIA have used cigars in other ways. Much like the cyanide cigarette packet, the CIA have also been accused of making cyanide cigars. And some even say the CIA tried to take out JFK using one of these cyanide cigars. Next up is the Stinger. Now, the Stinger sounds like some kind of awesome James Bond-esque weapon, but if you wanted to see what it looks like, you could go to any local supermarket. That is because the CIA weapon known as the Stinger was simply a tube of toothpaste. At least, that's what it looked like on the outside. Inside was implanted a .22 caliber bullet. This would then shoot out at you when you squeezed the toothpaste. It was a single shot, and the idea was you would simply squeeze the toothpaste in the direction of whoever you wanted to take out, and the bullet would do all the work. Apparently this was tried out by the CIA, but it did not work well. On another occasion, it was even snuck into Fidel Castro's toiletries bag. However, one senior CIA officer interfered and got them to remove it at the last moment. We're not sure why this was. Maybe he realized it was a crazy plan. Or perhaps it's just because they developed a non-discernible bioinoculator. If you're asking what on earth is that, then it's coming up. So as promised, last on the list is the non-discernible bioinoculator. This really does sound like a thing that would be given to James Bond. And that's kind of because it is. It's a super futuristic CIA weapon which is used to take people out without them even noticing. You'd think if someone was trying to end your life, you would at least pay some attention. But it's in the name, non-discernible, right? What this is a tiny shooter. You'd pull the trigger and a tiny bit of biochemical would be inserted inside someone. The insertion would be so small, autopsies wouldn't even be able to see it. So even after an autopsy, people would not know how he passed away. To the CIA, it's no good just to take someone out. You need to take them out and also not cause an international incident and get a ton of criticism. So those were some top secret, declassified CIA spy techniques and weapons. If they're the things we do know, it really makes you wonder, what don't we know? In a world full of changing technology and amazing things, the CIA may be doing absolutely inconceivable things. but they still use many of the techniques and gadgets on this list. So look out for people using these techniques, as they may be CIA spies. And you can even try your hand at using some of these in real life. For example, if you wanted to communicate something secret to a friend, you could use the shoelace technique. And who doesn't love some secret emoji cryptology? Check out the poll in the top right corner to vote for the best CIA spy technique. Personally, I think it's the shoelaces, as that is genius. If you guys want more amazing videos, check out my second channel. There'll be a link to that on screen in a moment. But as always, thanks for watching. Check out some more videos on screen right now. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and if you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to Top 10s.